with Stephen Lucey, back by popular demand, just with the week that's in it. Limerick having reached their first minor football final in 23 years, I think. Somebody who was on the pitch that day and who is involved in the background as the doctor at present. We said it'd be a good time to touch base and rekindle some old memories from back in 98 and talk about the current 2021 team. Before we get on to you, Stephen, a quick reminder maybe of how 98 went in Semple Stadium that day.
Putting it into the space, Eddie Scully is after it. Here's a chance, and it's off the crossbar. It was Mark Culhane, in fact, and that was a chance. Comes back to Colm Hickey, and that is sent wide. When we look at it again, the second time round, I think you just might see it hit the back of the stanchion at the net. It did indeed fly into the net, come back off the post at the back. That was a legitimate goal for Limerick. Ronan O'Connor. The flowing blonde locks sends that ball down towards his full forward. Again, it's Brian Geary. He's under pressure to hold possession. Here's a chance for Kerry. And that's a shot that's landed in the back of the net. It's so simple when Kerry begin to play. They transform a game as quick as you can click your fingers. And this was how it was done. With the two corner forwards combining, Ronan O'Connor feeding Kevin Lynch, and the goalkeeper Sean Lyons had no chance in stopping it. Well taken. Deep ball inside. Kerryman has come, the goalkeeper comes out, and that's in the back of the net. Willie Kelly, the Limerick half-back was caught out of position. Ty Kennelly crept inside, and once the goalkeeper decided to come, you could see the danger coming. Kennelly got the touch, flicked it past Sean Lyons, and Limerick now are in trouble.
So, Stephen, I'm sure it brings back memories, good and bad, but goal aside, blatant goal aside, which wasn't allowed, when we come to that, what were your memories back of that championship?
It's a long time ago, Pat.
Obviously.
But obviously there's a lot of talk in the last couple of weeks, and it's great. It's nice to revisit that. Trying to remember the who was on the team and the management and so on. And you sent it on to me today, so it brought back even further memories. Beating Cork in the semi-final was a highlight. We beat Cork in the minor football in 1998. We beat them in the under 21 in 2000, and we beat them in the senior in 2003. So, you know, that to me, I never had any fear then playing the likes of Cork after that, and having played Kerry in 2 minor finals and competing with them for a few years at senior. We never had any fear playing them. So that's why I'm excited for this bunch playing next week. That they have an opportunity here now, not to try and get overawed. If they could take, it's, you know, you just grasp the opportunity, you know, carpe diem, as Dave Billings used to say to me, and used to say, seize the day, like, you know. So that just brought me onto this week. But back then, I remember I was doing the Leaving Cert in Limerick tutorial. We weren't supposed to play any sport in those years, so I had to sneak around. We were in school from 9 until 5 o'clock and study from 7 until 10, and from 9 until 5 on a Saturday. So I was bringing my gear bags. I'd have to hide them in Sean O'Brien's shop or South's bar, and then collect it and go up to Mary I and train. And we used to have football training on a Saturday. And Pat O'Shea from Kerry was our coach down in, we used to train in Peafield in Monaleen. And I remember the training being very long, about 90 minutes, and very, very hard. He was the only coach that ever made me get sick during a training session. But I remember he was one of the greatest coaches I ever had. Himself and Donny Buckley were the 2 greatest coaches. The specifics, the individual coaching, the tactical side of it, even at that early days, bringing in basketball, body positioning, using your man to push off from a defending and an offensive point of view. So beating Cork and the after that, you know, at the end of that match was huge. The frustration and, how would I put it, anger at that goal not being given, and then just a feeling of being hard done by and kind of, you know, what might have been. They were the feelings.
Yeah, like look, the big day, the days against the bigger teams, we'll call them, the Kerrys and Corks of this world. Like you do need not only luck, but you certainly don't need bad luck, and that was incredibly bad luck for the Marcolan one. And you speak about the Pat O'Shea. Just looking at that clip there, it looked like there was almost a sideline move that came in. A lot of the players went to one side of the field, and all of a sudden, Mark kind of wheeled away the classic backdoor cut that they're talking about nowadays the whole time, and was in on goal. So it would have been a massive moment for the team. Can you still remember it on the pitch, or you were probably the other end of the field? Like, was there a kind of a disbelief, or?
No, I can't remember. I was a sub that day. I can't remember. Like, it's so far back. I just literally remember that is my only memory of that match, is that goal, because probably we were talking about it for 20 years since. But I can't remember anything else from that game except that. I came on in the second half, but yeah, that was it. In relation to the backdoor cut, well, I think that was a move that we worked on. Again, I can't remember it. I know Liam Collins worked on that. We did a couple of set play moves that we did get joy from. We did score some goals. We did score some points from throw-ins and sideline moves in the years that followed. So potentially, yeah, we could have done one there, yeah.
And I was just looking there today, 97, actually, that was 98. 97, Limerick actually were in the minor final as well, and were well beaten by Kerry. But the 98 team, looking through it, John Galvin, Jason Stokes, Conor Fitz, Captain Con, as you call him, Conor Milan, yourself, a lot of the team who togged out that day, and even Kerry had a few, Mark O'Shea, Paul Galvin came on. Like, a lot of those guys went on to play in that 2000 All-Ireland final against Tyrone and not the senior. Like, do you think it was the start of something once he came together? You beat Cork and he kind of had a taste for the big time a small bit in that Munster final, and it helped.
What I would say back then is there was a plan put in place for Limerick underage at that time in both hurling and football. I know John Landers was heavily involved in it, and others. I possibly don't know if it's Gibbon and more. Like, I don't want to name fellas or not name fellas because I'm not sure. The creation of the under-16 football tournament that was sponsored and spearheaded by the Woodlands was a big thing. So that was my first time ever playing with Limerick in 1996. We played the tournament. We lost to Cork County just by like 2 points. I think we played them in Croom actually. And then we went on, and I don't know, did we play 2 matches or 1 matches, but we either beat Waterford or Clare in the final, the Shield final in Adair. So that kind of, it wasn't a full-on academy like what takes place now. I don't think any county had anything like that back then. But that definitely brought more organisation and more structure to football in Limerick. And it fed into those minor teams then, 97, 98, because there was that bit more organisation. There was a couple of other things then. You had a lot of dual players playing then, and there was good quality dual players, and they played both equally. And the last thing then, there was 2 more, actually 3 altogether. There was very, very tall, strong players back then. I think John Galvin, John Lydon, Brian Geary, Jason Stokes, like massive fellas all over the place. 1917, Timmy Carroll, like there was loads of tall lads, Conor Milan, like loads. So size, physically we were very tall. I remember it was commented on in 2000 in the under-21s how tall and big a team we were. So that doesn't help, like, having that size and strength. And the last thing then was characters and leadership. Like you can't coach that into fellas so much. Like, you kind of have that, either you have leaders and characters or you don't. And we had that in spades through those teams,
Yeah.
That carried into the 21s football and the 21s hurling. There was a lot of lads there across both panels, and I think both panels definitely drove each other on in those early noughties, as well.
Yeah, and it's actually funny that you mentioned it, because there's obviously a lot of similarities between some of the things you've said about your team. 23 years later now, we're heading into 2021 Munster Minor Football Final. This year's group have done fantastically well. You're talking about structures. They were one of the first teams in the new, we'll say, academy to win a title. They won an under-15 title up in Abbottstown. There was hope for them. And they've carried it through, and they've performed at minor level. They have some big players around the middle, the 2 midfielders, the half-forward line, quite tall. You mentioned your team are quite physical as well. So there are some similarities. Look, you've been doing doctor for the recent Munster Championship games. What are your takeaways from being involved and so close to the setup?
Well, on observation, I am very impressed. I'm very impressed with the players, the way they carry themselves. you know, their game sense, you know, their decision making on the field. I'm very impressed with their skill set. Like, I watched them trying to carry ball out of defence, and when a couple of defenders come towards them, they're able to switch hands and give a perfect hand pass off their bad hand. That's one thing I did see, because you'd often see hand passes going astray, or a weaker strike off the left hand, you know, if you're a right-handed player, and just being blocked or knocked away. None of that is happening. I'm impressed with, you know, the size of them as well. I can't get over how tall they are, and no doubt with more strength and conditioning over the next few years, and if they go onto the emerging talent squad, then they'll develop further with that and hopefully bridge the gap up to the 20s and onto senior. I really, really have a lot of hopes for this group. But, you know, as with all clubs, all sports, the age you kind of lose fellas at is kind of, you know, 16 up towards 21. There's lots of other things going on in life. So the proof will be in the pudding, and only time will tell. What else? I'm very impressed with the management. They work very well together. Obviously, I'm on the sideline, so I'm able to see it all. And yeah, I'm very impressed. You know, I just really, really am. Like, I hadn't seen, obviously with the pandemic, I wouldn't be involved in any of their matches and at the trainings and stuff like that. And I hadn't seen them, but I had heard good reports. Andrew Lane had been speaking highly of them. And yeah, I'm impressed with what I've seen. And I really hope that, you know, it's important that we give a good performance. It's important for the county. It's important for football in the county. It's important for them and their development as well. You know, it really, really is. And I really, really hope that they give a good account of themselves. That they're not nervous and don't play within themselves. The first quarter against Clare the other night, they played within themselves. They backed off instead of pushing up and squeezing up and putting the pressure on. When they did that against Clare, they got a lot of joy. You know, they had a bit of the aid of a slight breeze in that first half. But once they did push up, they gained more confidence. They got more possession, because when they sat back a bit, Clare kind of dominated them. So I think they should go for it. Like, you know, just roll the dice and go for it. Is what I was saying to the lads.
Just prior to the semi-final against Clare, actually, I was chatting to ref, and the one thing I noted against Tipperary, and I was really impressed, was they're so comfortable in their own skin. Both the players and the management seemed really comfortable. They knew what they were about. They didn't really panic at any stage, even there were the stages of games where they went out of it completely. You mentioned the first quarter against Clare. I was watching going, oh, we could be in for a long night here, because Clare were on the front foot and there was a few mistakes. But at no stage did you really feel a level of panic amongst the team or the players. And obviously you could see it from the sideline that there was none there. Like, that certainly helps an age group where something goes wrong and it can kind of go downhill very quickly. So is that something that you have seen?
Yeah, two things. The first thing is, I felt they were very, very well coached. They all knew their role. Paul O'Connell had a great saying that he said to us, you were there that day, we played Westmeath a few years ago, know your job and do your job. So I felt that they knew their job and they did their job. The second thing then is, I felt that there was presence. Some players, or most of the players, had a presence about them. That was a phrase that Pat O'Shea said to us back in '98. You got to have presence on the field. You know, whatever form that means, whether you're exuding confidence or you're just focused and well drilled and doing the right thing. I don't know, but the word presence struck me when the chips were down, or when the right pass made to be made, or making a burst past a couple of tackles. There was a lot of lads putting their hand up. Not one, not two star players, but a lot of them, and in different parts of the field. So that struck me, and I was very impressed by it.
Yeah, I suppose it's the classic exuberance of youth. Like, it just when things start going well, everyone wants to be part of it and everyone wants to be involved. And you could really see that in the second half. There was just green jerseys just flying from all over the pitch. You had cornerbacks carrying the ball. They were ending up in the half-forward line. You had fullbacks, the lad from Ballybrown there, who was making bursts up the field, and it's great to see. And just on that as well, like, I suppose you have the traditional teams like the Father Caseys and the Moleens who make up the majority of the panel. But it's always fantastic to see the lads from Ballybrown, and this is not to degrade it or anything, but like, when it's a hurling club, obviously, and they're fantastic at what they do in hurling. But it's always great to see lads from those clubs, and you've led fullback from Ballybrown and the full forward Rory Cronin from a hand. Like, it's always great that you see these guys on a big stage being able to produce it, and especially Rory, who's actually is a basketballer with Ireland. and it was great to see something different. Like I commented to Andrew afterwards, like that it was like the Clare lads were a bit unsettled by him because of his different attributes that he obviously brought from the basketball. And it's something you would have seen up along as well with lads like John Galvin and even Jeremy Staunton the year he played with the Minors. Like, it's great to see lads from other sports, throwing their lot in with the football while they can.
Yeah, and Stephen Kiley there from Munleen, I think he plays rugby with one of the Munster squads as well. So yeah, they bring all that. As the sports science says, players, you should try and play multiple sports and then specify then a little bit older. But they definitely complement their skill set and bring it on a bit. But that sheer size and that basketball ability and be able to move around, I can't speak highly enough of what John Galvin brought to us. Like, it was there for all to see, but there's just the specifics of it. You could see it in every move he was making, the basketball, where he's holding the ball over and getting it over defenders and then make it shimmy and then a bounce or a long bounce or a dummy bounce. He would feint one way and bounce the other way and he'd be gone. And the long strike, like, if he can bring that to the table and if he stays coming to the football, sure, it augurs well for the future for Limerick. It can only benefit it.
After the match Friday night, what were obviously saw a few pictures that you threw up yourself, and just obviously you get a sense through TJ Carr's coverage of just the general kind of elation at the final whistle. Like, but what was it like with the players, their families, the coaches?
Yeah, they were delighted. They were all delighted. So, like, I was chatting to some of the lads beside me initially. They were talking about '98 because they remembered. They were asking, and just over the far side. So all the families were on the far side of the field. So all the players walked over, clapping and embraced their family and their friends and chatted to them and took some photos, and that was really nice. And the management were chatting, and someone took a photo of some of the management, and then the lads went over and got one of those big ice boxes and dumped it on top of Coach Lane or Coach Andrew Lane.
How very American. American.
Yeah, for sure. I think he enjoyed that too. He's put an awful lot into them, as Kevin, as the rest of them. So, it's nice to get that recognition, and the lads appreciate. I'm sure the lads and their families appreciate all the stuff that that the management and the coaching team have done for them over the years. So yeah, it's credit all around. I have to say now, I'm hugely impressed by everybody in that setup, from the back room to the players, everybody.
Yeah, and it's a lot of hours, a lot of unseen stuff that goes on, especially at under 17 minor level, because there's so much more attached to it than there is up along, and it's fantastic that everyone involved got rewarded, because we've all been there. You put a lot into it, and it doesn't guarantee anything. So they really have to obviously embrace the fact that they've gotten the 2 championship wins and celebrate the fact that they're getting to a Munster final, and without getting too lost in the moment. But you have to enjoy these moments. I remember when you finished up saying about the journey is as important as any of the medals that are won. And it certainly will probably be a night and a journey that a lot of these players will remember for a long time in their families. And you mentioned about Cusick Park and the families there, and I was lucky enough to be in Gaelic grounds for the quarter final against Tipperary and the Noise. There's something about underage games. There's just that little bit more kind of buzz around the place when things go well, because it's so unusual. Like, people don't really know what they expect. So when something goes well, it's like everyone gets involved. And I do see that the final obviously is on in Semple Stadium next Wednesday, and the capacity has been talked about around 4,000 maybe being allowed to go to it. So, like, how fantastic would it be if another couple of hundred more Limerick supporters were there on the night to get behind the lads?
To be brilliant. Like, you really need. We played Kerry back in, was it 2004 in the replay, and I don't know, was there 40,000 down in Fitzgerald Stadium? You'd never see a crowd like it before or since at a Limerick football game. So for these young guys, I would say anyone who's around next Wednesday, I'd encourage them to go along and offer their support. Like, the hurlers are on the crest of a wave. Fingers crossed they do the business against Waterford up in Dublin this weekend. But in relation to the footballers, if anyone is around, please go and support them. Like, their friends, their family, their club mates would be there. But like, anyone who has an interest should go along. They're definitely worth your support and your encouragement. Like, they're doing themselves, their families, their clubs huge credit. Like, I'm very, very impressed. Like, I haven't come across a team, in football terms, as impressive as this. The senior footballers now have been doing fantastically well this year and last year, but this group now are a different team to what I've seen in the last few years now. So I'm very, very hopeful, and please God, we'll get a lot of support there.
And just go back to something you touched on about the academies, and obviously Paul Kinnerk has been involved there for the last 7 years probably, and Andrew Lane actually, who's coaching the minors along with Kevin as manager and other lads. He's been there throughout as well. Like it's a kind of a tangible, a bit of success is the wrong word, but a tangible kind of arrow pointing in the right direction. That you're getting to a final now, a minor level finally for the first time after this long.
It it's what's the word I'm looking for? It kind of reinforces or reinvigorates you, and it's a reward almost for your efforts. It's hard to keep going back and putting it all in if you're not getting anywhere. I suppose you could say that about a lot of things, really. Like, and if you look at the All-Ireland Senior Championship, teams train 6, 7, 8, 9 months, and they could play. So say, for instance, not picking anybody, but Leitrim play, say, Mayo or Waterford, or somebody would be playing maybe Kerry, and you train all that. And imagine if there's no backdoor. I mean, where's the reward there? Like, I mean, a tangible success breeds success. It gives you further encouragement to stay going. And it's hard to stay going if you're losing all the time. The Limerick team seniors were there for a couple of years and they weren't winning anything. And that was really tough, really, really tough on the management and the players, and really hard to keep turning up, So, going back to, you mentioned the journey there, we still talk fondly of that minor in 98, the under-21s in 2000, 2001 even, and then the seniors. And there are lots of matches, lots of memories, lots of friendships, and lots of funny stories and nights out. And they're the things you cherish and you talk about whenever you catch up again in the future, or if you're on WhatsApp groups and so on and chatting. So I'm sure these lads will have these these memories, and they'll bring it with them. Even the lads that don't go on and play football in the future, I'm sure they'll carry those memories with them wherever they be.
It's funny to explain to people without trying to be smart about it, but like and I was chatting to Ref about this. Obviously, from when they played Tipperary the first night until they played the final on Wednesday night against Cork, it's a 3-week window. And people might say, what's 3 weeks really going to make a massive difference in the lifetime of anybody, a football or anything? But when you're in that 3 weeks and you're living in each other's kind of inside in each other's pockets, and you're getting to spend extra time at the training pitch with them and chatting to them about other things, you're not guaranteed. Those lads aren't talking about football outside of the session, like 10 other things, like. But 3 weeks together in that environment, like, it's worth its weight in gold, isn't it? For like getting that sort of bond together, having maybe a lifetime friendship off the back of it, and hopefully from a football point of view, keeping that show on the road even beyond Wednesday night. Yeah,
sure. It's a social outlet. You do stuff because you enjoy it. Like people play sport because they enjoy it. Their friends do it. You do anything. You go to a concert or a gig because your friends are going. You go on a night out because your friends are going. If it's fun, people are more drawn to it. That's why underage sports, like, you have to make it fun. Like, if you don't like something, you're not going to go. If you have bad experiences. I was at Keith Ricken spoke at the National GA conference recently, and I was taking down some notes. He's a very, very good guy, very player centered, the person rather than the athlete or the player. And what was I going to say again? Like, you might remember what's said to you or what you're shown in a training, but you'll always remember how you feel, how the coach has made you feel, or how you feel after a session. And that's the same with underage sports in particular. So I hope that the lads are having good experiences, winning experiences, and fun experiences. And that's very important. That goes for all sports. Like, I'm sure a lot of coaches would agree with that.
Yeah, look, it's massive. It's massive. And Wednesday night, I suppose, look, I was able to see the second half of the Cork and Kerry game the other night. Impressive, very impressive. Like, I know they only won by a point in the end, Cork, but that was a late Kerry rally. Kerry actually missed a free in 21 to level in injury time, but it would have been very harsh in Cork. They were full value, the better team, very strong, big, physical, all over the field. You would kind of expect it off of Cork. They're on a bit of a crest of a wave themselves, underage hurling and football. They seem to have their.
Tell me no more, Pat. Tell me no more.
Look, we have to try and build them up so as much as possible. But look, it's a big ask. It's a big ask. But look, it's fantastic that you have the opportunity to come up against Cork, because it has been a few years. I was down in Páirc Uí Rinn maybe 4 or 5 years ago, watching my brother play with a minor team who were on a similar crest of a wave, and got a bit of a rude awakening on the same night. It can happen against Cork. They have that in them. Like if you're chatting, if you had an opportunity to chat to any of the Limerick lads, players now, like what, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but things go wrong in the first 5 minutes. A goal goes in for Cork, something goes wrong, you lose a man to a black card. Like as a Stephen Lucey, who's someone who's been through a lot of losses, unfortunately, in finals, but a lot of good performances in finals too. Like, what's your bit of advice for any of them?
Tea and toast. Tea and toast. Now, I'll tell you about this one as well. This is a good anecdote. This is another Keith Ricken story.
Keith Ricken.
So Keith Ricken, he went into hospital for an operation, and now he won't mind saying this because he said this himself in the conference. Yeah. But so he had the operation, obviously fasting, or the procedure, and he's fasting from the night before. So he was starving, and it went on, and he didn't get it done till late in the afternoon. So he'd been starving since midnight the night before. This is pushing on 5 o'clock the next day. Couldn't wait to eat. And when it was finished, he got out, he was starved, and he was like, I can't wait for the next thing. The next thing is my tea and toast after going through the hardship of what had just gone before. So the tea and toast was just landing in, and then his family landed in. And sure, they started going at the tea and toast, sure, and he didn't have the heart still, so he left them off. So he didn't have it again until he got home, and he absolutely murdered the tea and toast, and it was the best thing ever. But he told the story about Cork and Dublin in the All-Ireland Under-21 football final the previous year, and he was manager of, and Cork won. Dublin scored like a goal. The goalkeeper, there was something happened anyway, and they got an early goal. And the centre-back ran in and sent to the goalkeeper, tea and toast. In other words, it was trying to change his mind from the bad that was had just happened or was about to happen and look forward to the next thing. Mm-hmm. So if, as you said, something bad happens in the first few minutes, I might tell him the tea and toast story. But
you don't have to run in. You'll be able to hear you from the sideline anyway. You could if we hear over the coverage, whoever's covering the game, if we hear tea and toast being roared from the sideline.
Yeah, I know. But if I had anything to say to them, it would be, just don't have any regrets. Don't be hiding or afraid. I mean, I'd probably tell them about how we played Cork, Kerry, or Cork at minor under-21 and senior. We beat them, and not to have any fear. And we don't have any fear, because fear is like a straitjacket, And if you let that happen to you, you're not going to be able to do anything. So don't let it become your straitjacket. So just have confidence. I'd also say they need to hold on to the ball for as much as they can early doors. Yeah. And the management will be saying lots of things, but they'd be just my couple of things that I would say.
Yeah. So look, I'm sure they're going to be excited Wednesday. I get the feeling that on the sideline, yourself and a few of the selectors, managers, although we're trying to keep a lid on it, there'll be excitement around. And look, it's we talk about Cork and we talk about the past, but it's fantastic for these lads at 17 and 16, some of them years old, to be looking forward to a massive opportunity to show people what they're able to do. I heard Kevin saying afterwards, talk about finals. The way they looked at the Clare match was it was their 6th game.
You took the words right out of my mouth. When you said it's a massive occasion, it's a final, straight away I was shaking my head saying, don't even refer to it as that. And I've heard that elsewhere. Game 6. This is game 7.
Yeah.
That's if everybody uses that language, because language matters and it plants a seed. Yeah. So if you start playing the occasion, it's final. Oh, it's a big, you're going to get lost. You won't perform. You'll get nervous, again, or you might get afraid. The straitjacket comes on, Yeah. So I like the way they do that,
There is that bit more in finals, isn't there? There's once you arrive at the ground, there's a bit more activity. There's a bit more stewards. There's a bit more.
Yeah, you definitely feel that, and they won't be used to it as much.
Yeah,
I don't know how much Cork could be used to it either.
But look, isn't it fantastic at
they're
that
all
age?
16.5, 17, they're young, they're kids really.
This is true. We're saying about Cork, how fantastic they and big and strong they are. But at the end of the day, they're just 16 and 17-year-olds, the same as the Limerick lads who'll be turning up today. So it's like I said last week. Sometimes with that age group, it's what side of the bed you roll out of, that morning, So, but a massive thing is enjoying it. I know you're trying to park the fact that it's a final, but you also have to let it in a small bit that it's a final, don't you? Like, just to kind of feel that kind of atmosphere and feel that bit more energy and electricity around the place.
Yeah, I'd say that would come through naturally.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't accentuate it. Like, I'd just let it. I would come. You know, I'm sure they'll feel that. They can't, but sure, look, it's very hard for kids that age to block it out. All their friends and their family are going to be talking about it and all this, and they'll be asking for tickets and stuff in the paper. And young lads will be curious now because there's a bit of limelight, and they might be reading the news, listening to the radio, watching the podcast or whatever, or reading the papers. Like, so there'll be coverage, you know.
Yeah, and look, it's great for fellas like Darren Murray, who seems a real leader, the captain of the team. He was there last year. I was saying that it probably adds a lot. Cathal O'Mahony, who hopefully will be able to talk. I know he missed the first game through hamstring, and also another leader from 2020 will say, it mightn't sound like a lot of years experience, but it's worth a lot for these sort of occasions. And the good thing about the likes of Dara, they seem to be leading by example on the field as much as anything else. Like, when a ball is needed to be won, these are the lads putting their hands up. And to be fair, you're absolutely right. And Andrew and Kevin have said it as well. They're all looking for the ball, which is a fantastic thing to have in a football team, because it's so easy to give the impression that you're actually looking for it when you're not in reality. But they certainly seem to be a team that are all very comfortable on the ball and looking for it. And hopefully Wednesday night, they can get out, have a good warm up, get used to the surroundings. Probably most of them haven't played in Thurles. It's a bit different again. The pitch there, look, class, probably the best surface in Ireland for that. So look, it's fantastic. I'm really jealous that I'm not getting to walk on it again. Like, but look, it's great. It's fantastic that we're able to talk about this tonight, about a Munster final to look forward to, and hopefully, and you might check it out beforehand, but I don't think the back stanchions are still there in Thurles. Maybe they are, but
We'll go down and pull them down.
Yeah, go ahead.
I bring down a roll of string. I'll take down the stanchion. I'll put up a roll of string.
Yeah, have a chat with the umpires before the match. You'll be the VAR on the sideline anyway, I'm sure, for all decisions, not just the ones for their goals and points.
Yeah, you'll probably hear it. I'll probably be roaring and screaming.
That's true. But look, Stephen, thanks for coming on. Keep up the good work as the doctor. Keep minding those young lads, and I'm sure I was going to say keep Andy calm, but he seems, and Kevin, they seem to be level-headed, and it's following through to the team at the minute. They really seem to have their head on their shoulders, and they're in a good place. And hopefully Wednesday night they can perform. That's the big thing, that they turn up and they perform.
That's the thing. A good performance.
Yeah,
it has to be. Yeah, you know, it needs to be. It's important.
Yeah,
you know.
Listen, thanks, Luce.
Okay.